Hey guys, in this video, I'm gonna share with you my best and worst reads from February 2025. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is John and you're watching Old Stuff is Cool. So previously I made some videos called the Pull List Report. It was a way for me to explore and talk about current comics because I don't only collect back issues, even though so far, primarily, I've been sharing with you comic hauls, back issues, omnibus, trade paperbacks. I definitely collect current comics too, so this is another stab at checking with you guys what I'm enjoying, what I'm not enjoying, what's on my pull list, all that good stuff. But before we get any further, you can help support the channel by doing all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much in advance. Alright, so the first book I want to talk about, and it's one of my best for February 2025, it's Ultimate Wolverine. And here's issue 2, variant cover. Offhand, I forget who did this cover, but I'll be sure to put it in post down here somewhere. The art, though, from the main artist, Cappuccio, I'm familiar with his work, very moody, very dynamic from Moon Knight, Jed MacKay's current run. And I don't think he's on Moon Knight so much anymore. I think Marvel has recognized just how talented he is and putting him on other projects. Ultimate Wolverine certainly is a high-profile project, and that moodiness, the darkness, works so well for what is really a grim story. And it's not unfamiliar for fans of Wolverine, that grittiness, the darkness. I would say it's like an extra level of depression in this case. Yet, it works so well. And in case you weren't familiar with the concept here, Wolverine is essentially the Winter Soldier. Those two kind of got merged. He is, fully or mostly, just programmed, controlled, and it's just brutal. In this one in particular, to kind of test the limitations or what he can handle as far as a soldier, they send their own soldiers to hunt him in the woods, and you can imagine they never had a chance to begin with, and just the brutality of the attacks, and every time you see like a sliver of Wolverine, Logan, maybe coming up, bubbling to the surface, it kind of gets squashed down right away. So what I like about this is a limited series. This is not going to be an ongoing. I forget exactly how many issues, maybe I think around the 8-issue mark or so. And given the grim nature, I think that's probably what I think myself and what most people can handle. But I think what you do with a limited series, or even a larger limited series, is you have a definitive beginning, middle, and end. So I'm enjoying this one. Typically I gravitate towards books that have a little more hopefulness to it, but hey, sometimes you got to embrace your darker side. So if you've been on the fence about Ultimate Wolverine, I would recommend checking it out. Now, staying in this corner of the Ultimate Universe, let's talk about Ultimate Spider-Man. And here we are with issue 14. I've been on the fence. We're just over a year in now, and the progress seemed very slow, which is not atypical for Jonathan Hickman books. But let me tell you, once I think with issue 13, kind of this season 2, year 2 kicked off, I would say the action has ramped up. Things with the Sinister Six, in particular Kraven, or Ultimate Kraven, have been moving. There is a pretty big spoiler for that I'm not going to share in this issue, number 14, but just in case you're trade waiting, or if you're just letting books stack and reading them later, watch out for spoilers on this one. It has kicked back in gear after some very quiet issues, which are important too for character development, for the development of the supporting cast. Lots of good things going on. So Ultimate Spider-Man, I'm sorry I had my doubts. I'm still really enjoying this, and still easily one of the most anticipated books I look forward to each month. Anyhow, moving on. These books are in no particular order, but third on my list of best reads for February, I gotta talk about Storm. This is the only remaining X-Men book on my pull list, and it's not even totally a X-Men book in the traditional sense. I got into the X-Men during the 90s, during the animated series, during Jim Lee's run, the tail end of Chris Claremont. That's the era that's been like branded into my brain, that kind of team adventure book. So Storm doesn't quite fit into that. That being said, it is a awesome focus on the character. I have not really read any of the Storm miniseries. I've always enjoyed her character when she's in the X-Men books or in the event books, but the writer, Iodel, I don't know if I'm butchering that, but I've really been enjoying not only his characterization of Storm, but of the various guest stars that have come in. Brother Voodoo, Doctor Doom has popped in. And in this most recent issue, guys, this taps into the cosmic side of Marvel. It taps into some stuff like that Jonathan Hickman's Gods limited series that came out last year. And I really enjoyed what he's doing there with basically like the cosmic beings, like Eternity, Infinity, Oblivion. Those characters are all, well, in particular, they pop up in this issue. Eternity was kind of floating in the back and has a large part to do with Storm's glow up in this case. But guys, the fact that it's a Storm book, it's got some X-Men stuff, it's tying into, you know, the One World Under Doom. I love that cosmic stuff. And I don't think we see a lot of it. Sometimes writers like Al Ewing will touch upon it, Jonathan Hickman I mentioned, and I had no expectation that it would come up in my Storm book. And I was ready to trade weight on this one because I really enjoy it, but I was like, do I need to read this month to month? This issue, number 5, it's helping prove its place on my monthly pull list, so we're gonna stick with it for at least for a little bit longer. So if you like Cosmic Marvel and you're wondering, you know, what's going on in that corner of the Marvel universe, check out Storm. So those were my top 3 Marvel reads, and I have 5 for you today. The next one is a recent addition to the pull list, and this comes from Image Comics, the Skybound imprint. We're talking about Transformers. I've talked about Transformers in, you know, I think other videos or on social media. I'm over on Instagram. If you don't follow me there, please, you know, if you're on that platform, come follow me. Old stuff is cool. Feel free to message me. I'd love to hear from you. But Transformers, guys, I have, you know, remove myself from trade waiting, and I'm picking this book up monthly. It does such a great job on a number of things, but I think my top 3 things I love about it, number 1, it leaves me wanting more every issue, and with something that's, you know, issue by issue, episodic, I can appreciate a good cliffhanger, and Daniel Warren Johnson is giving us cliffhanger after cliffhanger, so that's a big thing. I feel like I have momentum wanting the next issue. A lot of people weren't sure about the art, and you know, art is very subjective, but Jorge Corona, who stepped in to do pencils when Daniel Warren Johnson shifted to just writing, or he'll do covers on occasion, right? But I feel like they mesh really well. In fact, for me, it was seamless because Johnson's pencils were always a little bit cartoony, very dynamic, exaggerated, and I guess things that kind of steer towards cartoony or animation or even like manga anime, I think a lot of Western comic readers don't really like that. You know, whether being an Asian background or just having read manga and watching anime with no, you know, with nothing against it. I have no problem with the art in this book. I quite enjoy it. So the look, basically. Number 2 is the art. The look of the book is great. And number 3 is heart. Daniel Warren Johnson's got so much heart in all the books he writes, and that is no different despite the characters being giant alien robots. And you know, let this be the biggest selling point. What kind of converted me in a big way, Daniel Warren Johnson makes the despicable Starscream, not only makes him relatable, but sympathetic. And we're talking about a guy who just enjoys, you know, killing humans, brutalizing not only Autobots, but his fellow Decepticons, if you know, it serves his purposes. We get Starscream's backstory on how he joined the Decepticons, how he met Megatron, and it is heartbreaking. I did not expect that. So if he can make the reader sympathetic towards Starscream, man, I think there's no limit in what he can do as far as like character development and even just getting us behind even the most despicable characters. So all that's to say, I highly recommend Transformers, even if you've never gotten to the book before. Even if you've never gotten to this franchise before. I know I have a lot of nostalgia for it growing up with Generation 1, the toys, the cartoon, the original 1984 movie. It's pretty easy for me to plug and play into this series, but I think more people can definitely check this one out, even with no background in Transformers. And last but not least, at number 5, let's talk about DC. I am mostly a Marvel guy in my collecting and in my interest, but I have nothing against DC at all. In fact, I am actively collecting all the absolute titles right now. Nothing in the main line, not really, except for you'll hear me talk about Batman Hush 2 when that kicks off in March, and I'll be that's already on my pull list. But going back to the Absolute Universe, I wanted to share my what has emerged as my favorite of the 3 books of Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. Wonder Woman, that is my favorite of the 3. The title I most anticipate each month has been Wonder Woman, and that the writing from Thompson. I think the artist Sherman is local to the Boston area of Massachusetts. It's a unique style, and I'm not quite sure. I think it has a little bit of an indie appeal. It's not your typical commercial style, and for that reason, I think it could be divisive. But what really works is the mood, the atmosphere, because Wonder Woman being raised by Circe in Hell, and that's a little bit of the background here. Wonder Woman taps into a darker side of DC, and the first villain really is like an eldritch horror, giant monster emerging from the sea, very Cthulhu-like and whatnot. That kind of darker story, I think Sherman's pencils, the artwork, even the color choices for this book really mesh and complement the story. I mean, really, I was thinking Absolute Batman would be the one that I was tearing into issue after issue. Again, I'm enjoying all the Absolute titles right now. It's funny, yeah, Batman probably comes second, and it might be even tied with Superman. Those titles are very interesting, and I like the alternate takes that we're getting there. So favorite of the Absolute titles as of recording this in March is Wonder Woman. All right, so those were my 5 best from February. Next up, we're going to talk about my 3 worst from February. And I use that term lightly. It's just best and worst. They're opposites, right? These are just titles that I'm either going to trade weight or I've dropped from my monthly pull list for one reason or another. We're going to get into it. First up, since we talked about Ultimate Universe first, let's talk about Ultimate Black Panther. Issue 12 was the last one I got. And this one, I feel like there's a lot of stop and go with it. I've shared about this from the previous pull list report videos, but I was actually kind of frustrated and almost angry at the end of this issue because of my expectation was this is the end of a year. And then typically the way they chop up trade paperbacks, it would be issue like 1 through 5, 1 through 6, and then another chunk after that. So I was expecting at least some resolution and then some setup for the coming year. But I feel like, I don't know, I like what's being done in the story. I like you see Ultimate Doctor Strange introduced like a few issues before this, but the big climax here is T'Challa, Black Panther, goes against Moon Knight. Yeah, essentially Ultimate Moon Knight. It's been a little bit since I read this. Either Ultimate Moon Knight or Ultimate Khonshu. Either way, this is a conflict that's been bubbling up, and the pace of this and a lot of the Ultimate stories are just too slow. I thought after a year's worth of stories, we'd be much further along than we are currently, and we just aren't. So I was quite frustrated because I feel like I gave it like chance after chance and was ultimately let down. So I will check back in with the title via Marvel Unlimited because again, I like the setup. I like what they're doing. I just don't like the pace. I don't like. It's like the opposite of what I shared with you about Transformers. There's not necessarily a cliffhanger or enough to hook me to read the next issue, and even that feeling of satisfaction on how the story's progressed. It's especially at $5 a book here, it does not merit it in my eyes. So the creative team of Hill and Caselli and Curiel, they've set up a good foundation. It's just, I think the pacing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. The pacing's really not for me. We'll check back this in. If I'm blown away by something in year 2 after reading it digitally, I'll definitely let you know on the channel. But for now, this is dropped, and yeah, it gave me a very visceral reaction, which I was not expecting. I think just maybe as a dad, or if you're a parent out there, when you're disappointed by by certain events or by people, that was kind of what I felt like. Not gonna lie. Speaking of disappointment, that's the points I'll make here actually are very similar to Ultimate Black Panther, and that's Ultimate X-Men number 12. I think pacing is the same exact issue. I was hoping more would have happened a year in. Granted, I think issue 10, 11, and 12, things did pick up a little bit, and what is set up for year 2, I think seems more interesting, but not interesting enough. And I think this book is much maligned because it has the X-Men title, slapped on there, but for most people looking for some sort of familiar version of X-Men, they're not gonna find it here. The thing that kept me going, and what I dropped it once, came back, and I'm back out again, but it's Peach Momoko doing the mangaka thing, doing the writing and the drawing. I still love the art, but it's not enough. The story itself is not enough to keep me going. I think for someone who has never read an X-Men book or doesn't have as much hang-up, definitely like younger readers, younger readers or just newer to comics. So it's not one of those things where I'm angry about the book or wouldn't recommend it. But as far as a month-to-month book, as far as taking a spot in my budget, it's not meeting that criteria. So Ultimate X-Men is dropped, but just like Ultimate Black Panther, we're gonna keep tabs on it because I do like overall what's going on in the Ultimate Universe. The last book we're going to talk about, I think this is just trying to keep the pull list trim and cut out the fat kind of thing. Unfortunately, we talk about Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, killer Joker cover here by Tim Sale, and the interiors are actually by Bill Sienkiewicz, which who can be a divisive artist too, but is definitely established in the world of comics. It was interesting, but I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of his abstract work, but I was curious about it. Honestly, this one was already on the chopping block as of the previous issue. I think nothing about the story itself is really engaging with me, and this one is very Joker-centric, but the same deal. The story hasn't improved in my eyes. I'll come back and probably just pick up the trade because I absolutely love The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, so the other books, and it'll be interesting to check out The Last Halloween once it's all done, because I know Jeff Loeb as the writer can be very hit or miss. I mean, let's look at Ultimatum as far as the miss goes. That was the end of the previous, or that was like the beginning of the end of the previous Marvel Ultimate Universe. Story-wise, yeah, it seems like Tim Sale might have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and as I hear myself say that, I wonder if I'll feel similarly with Batman Hush 2, where Jim Lee's pencils, the artwork is really driving it. But I'm such a huge fan of Jim Lee. I think even if it's like as long as it's like a mid story from Jeff Loeb, I'll probably be happy, and that's probably the case with most comic readers. So, not a terrible book by any means. Just nothing. There's no hook for me. And my point about Transformers, maybe because I had a number of titles that I was following that just didn't have that end of the issue hook or momentum. It seemed easier to cut them from my monthly reads. So, sorry. Batman, Long Halloween, Last Halloween. We'll see you when you're all collected. We'll see if I keep this in the video, if it runs a little long, but I did want to give 2 honorable mentions. In addition to my pull list, I keep out 4 interesting books usually from writers or artists that I have enjoyed other works from. And 2 I wanted to mention, and very well could be added to my pull list, is first one from Ghost Machine. It's our Image Comics Ghost Machine imprint, which I think is firing on all cylinders. We've got the Rockefellers, and this one, the creative team of Peter J. Tomasi on writing, Francis Monopole, who love his art. I think I first came across it in New 52 Flash. The Rockefellers is like one part Fantastic Four. It has that sci-fi adventure feeling. A family is on the run from the future. We're not sure exactly what on the run from, but if anything, I don't know the name of this antagonist, but there's definitely there's like a Doctor Doom vibe with a mask, but it's definitely not, she's not a Doctor Doom clone by any means. Very eye-catching design. If I can find the name of the character featured here at the cover, I'll let you know. Yeah, the best comparison I can make is a very solid but different take on a sci-fi family. And I'm a fan of the Fantastic Four. I'm currently catching up with Ryan North's run on it. If that's kind of your bag, but maybe you don't want all the baggage of your pre-existing characters, check out Rockefeller. In general, Ghost Machine, whether you like horror, something like High Street, which I dabbled with a little bit, or Rook, which is more on that sci-fi, less fantasy, but more post-apocalyptic sci-fi kind of stories. Jeff Johns and the other creators, part of that Ghost Machine imprint, so good. Definitely put it on your radar if you haven't done so already. Check it out from the library. Geiger is another character. If anything, check out the first Geiger limited series that's already in trade paperback. That is such a good read, and if you like what you see there, maybe hunt down and check out the other books. My second and last honorable mention is also from Image. This is from Silent E Productions imprint. It's from Charles Soule and Ryan Brown, and it's The Lucky Devils, and this is issue 2. This is part of a 9-issue... 9? I don't see it on the cover here, but I think it's part of a 9-issue limited series. This is from the same creative team from 8 Billion Genies, which I greatly enjoyed that. I know there's a lot of, for collectors, there's a lot of hype about it. I just read the trade paperback and just loved it for the story. So they're doing similar things here where you kind of explore human nature, maybe tackle some philosophical or religious questions. In this case, 2 devils are trying to move up by any means, move up amongst the ranks in the demon world, and we don't know exactly how they're breaking the rules. Well, actually, take that back. They're breaking the rules because every human has a devil that kind of prompts us to do negative stuff, and the different approach that these 2 are taking was to reveal themselves to their connected humans, and try to pitch them a you scratch our back, we scratch your back kind of deal. We'll see how those kind of themes play throughout the story. I know how 8 Billion Genies escalated. I think we're in for quite a roller coaster ride from Charles Soule. I think knowing how 8 Billion Genies kind of ramped up and escalated quite quickly by the end, I feel like something similar is going to happen here. So I have been checking this out issue by issue, but more likely than not, I'll probably just wind up picking up the whole miniseries and get the whole story. So again, the 2 honorable mentions, because I think they're great books to check out: The Rockefellers and The Lucky Devils. Oh yeah, it is the Lucky Devils. Sorry for the glare. But that's gonna do it for this edition of Best and Worst. But let me know from my list, do you agree? Do you disagree? What are you enjoying? What's on your pull list? What new comics are you reading? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Before we go out, just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. We're still trying to grow the channel, so if you like it, If you like this video, if you like this channel, please tell your friends about it. Would love to get more people in the mix here, have a conversation going. So thank you guys again, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time.